Bomberman is one of the longest running franchises in gaming history. Celebrating its 33rd year, we have Super Bomberman R on the Nintendo Switch. But is this game an explosive fun experience, or is it just a dud? Super Bomberman R's core is very much rooted with the old school feel of the older Bomberman titles. If you're a fan of those, you're going to feel right at home with Super Bomberman R. All the levels and areas of Super Bomberman R are the square, rectangle-esque shapes for the levels where you're moving on a grid. Your goal is, of course, to blast open rocks, find power-ups, and, of course, take out the enemies in each of the levels in order to advance to that next stage. The game features a full story mode that has actually voice acting and a plot that goes along with it. It's all done in a very cute way, and the Bomberman brothers, that are the main characters of the game, end up shining for the most part. There's some funny dialogue, and their character traits end up really coming through in these little cutscenes. They're all just kind of still frames for the most part, with just the characters kind of appearing and talking on them, which may take away from some of the story for some, but overall I thought they didn't distract and got the job done for what they were trying to do, though it wasn't anything spectacular. The game has 3 different difficulties, beginner, normal, and hard, and these will limit the amount of lives you have, as well as limit the amount of money you're going to have. As you earn money for defeating enemies and completing levels, you'll have to spend a good amount of coin in order to continue from where you left off on a particular planet. So if you run out of money, you're going to have to start the planet over from the beginning. Though this is not a problem if you're doing beginner mode, as it's very cheap and you can just keep on mowing through the levels, which may be a little bit more enjoyable for some out there, though the beginner mode is very much beginner when it comes to difficulty. For Bomberman veterans, though, you're going to want to jump right into normal or hard mode with a limited amount of lives and continues at your disposal, as well as, of course, the faster enemy movements, making them much harder, and then the epic boss fights. These are where the fight really ends up ramping up. You have 2 versions of the fight, a more traditional, like one-on-one with you and the boss trying to see who can bomb each other first, and then you move on to the much harder, bigger versions of each of the bosses, trying to find their weak points and trying to be able to deliver those key bomb blasts in order to try to survive. The only real issues come with it is that hit detection can be a bit harsh at times, especially in boss fights when you have these big fields that you're battling on. Trying to get behind a boss in order to hit that one weak point that you need to can be difficult because you're unable to really see your character. You can't move the camera around or anything like that, and with 2-player mode especially, it can be more difficult because the camera doesn't split or anything. There's no split screen mode, so one character can be pulling the camera one way and the other one's trying to see what's going on behind the boss, making it a little bit more difficult. I have a feeling, though, a bulk of a lot of players' time is going to be spent in the multiplayer mode. Here, there's a handful of maps for you to play on, with a bunch of different options for you to tweak, including, of course, the length of the battle itself, and whether or not the placement of each character on the map is randomized at the beginning of each round, or is it stagnant, where you all start off at the same spot each and every time. There are a few unlockable characters and unlockable stages that you can buy in the shop after you get done playing through the main story mode. As you're progressing, you'll earn that money, which will be mostly used for continues, but if you have any left over, you can use that to buy some of the extra boss characters and a few other things as well. The multiplayer modes in general, though, there isn't a ton of different modes here. It's mostly go in, and whoever's the last Bomberman standing is the winner of each round, and whoever completes the allotted amount of rounds needed to win is declared the winner. The online multiplayer at this point is working, but there is lag issues, though that's something they are currently working on at the moment, and I'm sure will be patched in the relatively near future. So if you end up picking this game up down the line, it probably will have much more solid multiplayer if there are still people playing it online. I think one of the big highlights, though, was the fact with the multiplayer that you can play up to 8 players in the same room on one Nintendo Switch. Of course, it's going to be a little bit hard to do so, mostly because you will need, of course, 8 different controllers. The good thing with the Joy-Cons, if you are familiar with them, the main Nintendo Switch controller, is the fact that each one works as its own individual controller. So at minimal, you'll need 4 sets of Joy-Cons in order to make sure every player is able to play, though other controllers for the Switch are able to be used in this mode. From the technical side of things, though, the game ran smoothly. I didn't run into any major slowdown, glitching, or crashing of any sort, and I really dig the soundtrack. It's a very kind of cute but EDM-style music that I really could end up listening to outside of it. In fact, I'm looking forward to trying to get a hold of this soundtrack, as there are some good tunes here included. Super Bomberman R is available for $49.99 on the Nintendo Switch. It's one of those games that may not be worth the price point for many out there. The multiplayer is a lot of fun for sure if you have friends that are going to be playing with you or you're wanting to get online once everything is fixed up with it. The story mode itself though, if you're going just for single player, it's only going to take you a couple of hours in order to get through. Yes, if you go right to hard mode, it will probably take you much longer, but still the story mode isn't that lengthy and it is definitely a little bit on the higher end as far as price is concerned. Overall though, if you're a fan of the older Bombermans of the NES and the Super Nintendo days, you're probably going to really dig what is presented here. I'm going to be giving the game though a 7 out of 10. But anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course I hope you enjoyed.